it going, everybody? Welcome to General Hospital MV, my GH After show, and a happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there that watch this show. Shall we get into it? Let's do it. The majority of the week was all about Jason's great escape from the hospital with a couple of other things thrown in the middle, so let's get that middle stuff out of the way first, and then we'll get into Jason. First, let's talk about Nixon Falls. Nina is running around like a chicken with its head cut off, doing her best to make sure that no one from Port Charles runs into Mike. She knows that Trina is on her way to the Tano to get some food, so she calls Mike and tells him to stay up in his room, to not move, and when she gets to the Tano, she barges in and tries to get Trina out of there as soon as possible. Trina had already eaten there and had pasta with Mike's sauce on it, and as a gift, Phyllis gives Trina that sauce because it's so delicious. When Trina heads back to Jax and Jocelyn at the hospital, she raves about the pasta sauce. Wouldn't it be hilarious if the thing that makes people find out that Sunny is alive is the pasta sauce from Nixon Falls? I can just hear it now. Oh my god, this pasta! How is it possible? It tastes like Sunny's secret recipe. No one knows that recipe but Sunny. I wonder if this means he could be alive. Truly, truly ridiculous, but I honestly see it happening. Anyway, once Jax, Jocelyn, and Trina hit the road, Mike and Nina are talking, and in walks Elijah into the Tano. And of course, he's pounding on his chest, trying to make a move on Nina, and she turns him down. When Elijah leaves, Sunny stealthily watches him at the entrance and notices that he's paying off one of the barn dudes that robbed the place. We're just so shocked by this, aren't we, audience? Play nice, you guys. Maybe if we act like we're enjoying the storyline, they might move it along a bit more quickly. Alright, moving on, let's talk about Curtis. He is still setting up his new nightclub, the Savoy, and this week he brings in a mixologist named Angela, who at first Portia mistook as a new sexual companion, but the two of them get to decide on the new drinks that are going to be at the Savoy. The two of them get a little bit tipsy and take a walk down memory lane, and by the end of the conversation, Portia notices that Curtis's wedding ring is still on, and Curtis is ready to take it off, and he tries, but it doesn't end up coming off, so Portia gets it off for him. Meanwhile, Trina's actually in the background watching this happen, and she's clearly very uncomfortable. This week, we kind of learned that she totally ships Curtis and Jordan. I know that these days, Trina's a lot more cooler with Jordan because she helped her dad out, but at the same time, it seems like a far stretch to go from mildly tolerating her and Curtis to shipping them as a couple, although maybe I think it has to do with the fact that she thinks that there's a chance that Taggart and Jordan might get together, but it looks like now she's probably more worried about the fact that Portia and Curtis are getting a little bit closer. Methinks the girl just wants her parents back together, probably. Can't really blame her for that. Alright, let's talk about Chase. So Finn had given Chase the antidote that was from Peter, but even Finn knows that that most likely is just a stopgap and not an actual cure for Chase's symptoms. Anna is going to do a little bit of digging. She is confident that the poison that was used on Chase is similar to the poison that was used on Tiffany back in the day by Faison to control Sean, so she's going to track down the scientists that made that in the first place. Valentine is just going to try to figure out where Peter is hiding the actual antidote. And of course, Finn is just going to do his best to try to find a cure himself. Finn is still facing the wrath of Elizabeth though. She saw him put that antidote into Chase's IV bag and she's demanding to know what it was. And finally, Finn confesses that Chase was being poisoned, and on top of that, that Peter was the one that killed Franco. Thank God somebody finally told her. There was no reason that needed to take this long. And of course, Elizabeth is feeling quite guilty about taking Jason away from his family. Too little too late, amiga. Back to Chase for a second though. So Chase, every time he's on, just goes on and on about how the only reason why he is still alive is because he's trying to live for Willow's sake. And of course, Willow is feeling hella guilty about it, which you should. Willow and Michael are such assholes, honestly. Sasha visits Chase in the hospital too. She was there for an appointment of some sort, and she is acting really strange. First, she ran into Brando in the elevator, and things were really awkward, but she does say that she does not regret that night that they had together in the car whatsoever. And then when she goes to visit Chase, she goes on and on to Willow about how she is so happy that they are working things out and it gives her hope. At first I was like, oh no, is she back on drugs or something? And then I was like, wait a minute, if she's there for a doctor's appointment, is she pregnant? I cannot handle another pregnancy storyline this year. Why do you guys think Sasha is acting strange? Let me know in the comments below. Alright, on to Maxie and Brooklyn. They are having an incredibly hard time figuring out a game plan for when Maxie gives birth. Brooklyn tries to discreetly visit Maxie at her apartment, but then Peter unexpectedly shows up, so she has to hide. Peter is a little bit suspicious while he's there, but Maxie quickly throws him off the scent and points out that she has a potential candidate to be an at-home nurse for her, and when she's not looking, Peter takes a picture of that resume, and then he makes a call, and it seems like he's going to try to get someone to pretend to be that nurse. Oh boy, and to make matters worse, Brooklyn and Maxie hit another snag because they're trying to get a hold of Britt, but then Maxie finds out that apparently Britt has been kidnapped by Jason Morgan. Now, let's talk about that because it's not as cut and dry as that seems. Let's get into it. Alright, so the plan was set in motion for Jason to make his great escape. Brick is waiting in the garage for him. Spinelli and Carly are watching the cameras that Spinelli hacked into. Ava and Laura are at Windermere alongside Nicholas and Kevin and Martin and Cyrus so that they can distract Cyrus long enough for Jason to escape. And it all went smoothly. No, it didn't. I gotta say, the banter at that dinner was hilarious. I loved it. It was like classic soap comedy at its finest.
So why exactly are we here? To solve a murder.
I think that we can all agree that there's been some tension.
Can't imagine why.
Particularly between you and my mother.
Can't imagine why.
Poor Laura, she tried so hard to bite her tongue, but then Cyrus just had to bring up Spencer, and Laura snapped on him. She ripped him a new one and told him in no uncertain terms that he would never be family. Thankfully, this dinner kept Cyrus away long enough for Jason to make an escape, but Jason's escape wasn't going smoothly either. At first, Jason successfully gets to the garage, but then I think he might have noticed that Britt's car was still in the driveway, so he gets suspicious and runs back in for her, which is a good thing because Britt did something hella stupid. Britt assumes that one of the new hires at GH is working for Jason, and it turned out he was working for Cyrus, so he gives Cyrus a call, and Cyrus orders them to inject Britt and try to kill her and make it look like an overdose. Jason gets to her just in time, and the two of them end up running for their lives. They get back down to the garage, and there's a big slow motion shootout. To make matters worse, Cameron had discovered that Jason escaped and went down to the garage as well. When one of the guys is shot, Cameron picks up a gun, and at first, it really looks like Cameron shoots Jason, but then it turns out that he didn't, but we'll get into that in a bit. Point is, Jason was shot, but they still escaped the hospital. Jordan runs down to the garage, and Cameron is so scared that he points the gun at her, and of course there's gunpowder in the air as well, so she had no choice but to arrest Cameron. Elizabeth is called, and she comes down to the garage with Finn, and Cameron saying, Jason escaped, this proves that he did it, and Elizabeth is just like, ah, crap. Eventually, Cameron is taken to the PCPD. Elizabeth had called Scott, and Jordan questions Cameron for a bit. But then when she looks over the footage, she realizes that the shot came from behind Cameron, so he wasn't the one that shot Jason. Just before Cameron is released, he overhears Elizabeth and Scott talking about how Peter was the one that killed Franco. And of course, Cameron goes into shock, and he is devastated that he was completely wrong and that he almost could have shot Jason as a result of what he was feeling. He does run over to see Jocelyn at Jax's house and tells her what happened, and while she is relieved that he didn't shoot Jason, the fact that he could have makes her really uncomfortable. So I don't know where that leaves them in their friendship. Honestly, that probably just leaves them in the same place. Those two are rocky 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, I swear. Now, like I said, Jason had been shot, so Britt is going to have to do surgery on Jason in the safe house. Carly shows up there, and it turns out that Jason needs a blood transfusion, and Carly apparently is compatible with his blood. I think that's a rewrite, but whatever. At the end of the surgery, Carly was like, thank God, and Britt just looks over at her and says, you're welcome. I'm like, Britt is still Britt, but with so many more layers these days. I love it. Jason is still passed out and is obviously in no condition to go into a meeting with the 5 families, so Carly has to do it herself, and honestly, she kind of killed it. I'm really surprised. I actually really enjoyed those scenes. It's been a long time since I've actually enjoyed Carly on my screen. So let me set the scene a little bit. Carly waltzes into that meeting with this gorgeous white dress and makes it known that she is in charge of Sunny's organization and that she wants everyone's loyalty. Cyrus is obviously pissed, but she puts him in a corner. Cyrus tries really hard to argue that he's going to bring new markets to these mob families, but Carly points out that everybody knows Cyrus's character, and that he's not going to play fair, and that he's going to wipe out these families one by one. And on top of that, she makes a power move and infiltrates one of his shipments that is happening in Sunny's territory, and Cyrus is pissed. Once the mob family see that, they show their loyalty to Carly, and Cyrus is just like, he was so pissed. Carly honestly had one hell of a poker face because she's there and he's saying, I will find Jason, and she's like, too bad you can't say the same about your shipment. I was like, oh my god, Carly is savage here. Once Cyrus left though, she sat down in the chair and you could tell that she was just so like I don't know, like traumatized over the situation. She's never had to be this deep into Sunny's world before, so this is obviously a scary territory for her. Although apparently this isn't the first time she's had to deal with the 5 families. Apparently it happened a long time ago in like 2002 or something. I actually don't know the details of that, so if you guys know, let me know in the comments below. Eventually, Dante shows up at that warehouse to question Carly. Apparently, he's kinda sorta, but not really back on the force. I don't know if this is legal, but Mac was like, tag along for this particular case, and he's like, alright, I don't know, seems illegal to me, but whatever. Dante ain't even a cop no more, so that's just weird. Later, Sam finds out that Dante is on the case, and she offers her help because who knows Jason better than Sam does, and they bring Spinelli to the PCPD to question him. Dante's a bit rude with Spinelli, and that sets Sam off, and then when Dante leaves the room, Sam questions Spinelli, and he caves and tells her where Jason was. Sam goes over to that safe house, and Dante ends up following Sam, but it was for nothing anyway because apparently Jason had already left with Britt. Now as for Carly, she goes over to Jax's house to see Jocelyn, and she explains what happens. Jax is pissed. He is livid that she is so neck deep into Sunny's world and demands that Jocelyn stay with him from now on. She agrees to let her stay for one night only. Back at the hospital garage, Obrecht was there because she found out that Britt was taken by Jason, and then she sees Cyrus making this whole stance about how he's so concerned over Britt, his chief of staff, being missing right now, and Obrecht knows that it's BS. He even goes up to her and he's like, please let me know if you ever hear anything from Britt, and she's like, I will, Cyrus, and then she just gives him this dirty look when he walks away. Honestly, I am just as morbid as Britt. I want to see Obrecht and Cyrus face off so bad. Obrecht actually goes up to Jordan and lets her know that Britt thought that she was in danger from Cyrus, so she knows that Cyrus is up in his neck in whatever went down tonight. Obrecht was like, for once I am on your side, Jordan, bring that schwein down. Anyway, those were the highlights. Shout out Robert and Olivia for sharing a 30-second scene. I love those two. They kind of talked about, you know, her issues with Ned, and then she kind of brings up, you know, the fact that they could be good together, Robert and Olivia, I mean, but that conversation is interrupted when she discovers that Dante is working on a case and that he was bringing Sam in for questioning, and she yells at him. She says that he needs to see Sam as his friend, and remember that if she gets any violations against her parole, she goes right back to jail and her kids will end up parentless. So Dante lets her go. But yeah, that wraps things up for GH Envy this week. I hope you all enjoyed it. Stay tuned. This Wednesday, I will be reacting to another classic Quartermain scene for Quartermain month. Thanks so much for watching this video though. If you liked it, give it a big ol' thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to. I'd truly appreciate it. And I will catch you guys next time. Peace out.